Figuring I'd talk today mostly about how to create a new class in Pathfinder, and if I've got enough time, how to add an archetype to that class, because that's a thing we get asked many a time. A lot of people working on that sort of thing. So, and my kind of assumption here is that you know where the editor is, and you've at least opened it, and then I'll take you from there. So first step in authoring, go to the develop menu and make sure enable data file debugging is turned on, because that'll open up a lot of helpful tools. Then in the tools menu, show editor. File, new data file. And we're going to create a class, so over on the class tab. And class, and then I'm going to use the new blank button. Save the file. And then we wait. And I apologize, I have a slow laptop, and I have everything Pathfinder loaded in right now. So normally when I'm working at home, I like to make smaller changes, test them, small changes, test them. Here I may do more changes at a time and test them just to save on time on the compilations. What's a good class name? Anyone throw out something random? What do we want to carry?
Gen Con attendee.
Okay. Hit dice. Wimps. 20 level class. And normal class versus a prestige or NPC.
We're totally NPCs.
Okay, so in Pathfinder, classes come as two different pieces. The first is called the class, and just the class tab here. That stores most of the data about this class. The second piece is called the class level. It's on this class level tab right next to the class tab. The class level is what a user actually adds on the classes tab when they're creating a character. So you add one copy of the class level for every level of the character you have, and then you have one single copy of the class that's added as soon as and that one copy is added for no matter how many class levels get added. And when I get control of this, I will. There we go. Nope. Okay. And the wizard that creates this adds a level for you on the testing. Okay, so I'm going to start first on the class level. There's not much to do here, so might as well get those steps out of the way first. So name is good, unique ID is good, uniqueness is what you want it to be in this case. So you put the description text for your class on the class level, because that's what the user is actually selecting. So that's where they'll see the text from. You can actually skip the description text box on the class itself. And it's a normal class, and it's already set up some linkages for us as it should. It is not allowed for Pathfinder Society characters. And let's add a new source for it. And parent ID in the user settings group is fine in this case. Save.
When would it not be fine?
Huh?
When would it not be fine?
Oh, right. You can see the whole list of sources here. If, for example, you were adding if you were doing work for Cobbled Press and you wanted to create a new book, you were creating a new book for them, you'd probably want to make your source a child of the Cobbled Press section rather than just user content. But yeah, you can put your new source anywhere in this whole list that you want. Save this just in case. Okay, so as I said, you can leave this description text on the class tab blank. That's not necessary. Also, you don't need to add a source to the class itself, because there's no way for the user to add the class directly, and only the things that the user is adding need a source. Okay, class role is for monsters. That's not a big thing. Favorite class options, we're not going to create any of those today. So starting side 6, starting age column. Let's make them generally younger, or able to start younger, but like the barbarians. Skill points for level 6, I think. Attack bonus slow. Fortitude saves probably good. All the gamer funk we're used to. And will saves definitely good, because we've actually toughed ourselves out to survive all this stuff. Class skills. Let's see. We
all
know
profession, we can come from all. All profession.
Yeah. And then appraise, and I won't bother selecting a dozen other class skills. You can see how I'm doing it. For your own class, you'd select a full list. Here's where you would add any languages that the class can speak, or gets, like the way a cleric gets access to celestial or infernal, the way a wizard gets draconic. That would be class languages. Automatic languages is things you get for free, like druidic for a druid. Class weapons. Let's add weapon or armor groups. Light armor proficiency, shields, and simple weapons. There we go. Okay. Let's give this class some bonus feat. Sir, yes.
Question: is there a model with points that you're using to base this on? Because in your head, you probably know how you design the classes. That you gave like so many of these things with perks or bonuses, so that each class kind of balanced out. Is there something that you're going off of that does that? Like equals a paladin, equals a mage, equals a trying to make it balanced?
No, there's some. If you've looked in the advanced class guide, there's a chapter on kind of how to approach that sort of thing. But Pathfinder does not have a point system for how to build a class or any kind of rules. Right now I'm just throwing things together for fun and to show you guys how it's done. Okay. So when creating a class in Hero Lab, when you see this kind of array where it's got a list of rows 0 through 19, what happens is that row 0 means level 1, row 19 means level 20. So let's say this class gets 1 bonus feat choice at every odd level. So what we're going to do is row 0, so that's level 1, put a 1. Then on row 2, so level 3, we're going to put a 2, because at that level they have a total of 2 bonus feats. The one they got at first level and the one they just gained. You can row 1 is not changed from the previous level, so you can skip that. And it would continue, but I'm not going to take the time to just type. And then bonus feats allowed. Let's say they can use meta magic and item creation feats. Just because. That's it. And if the class has two different bonus feat selections, like the way a cavalier gets some teamwork feats and some combat feats, and those are different selections, you would use the primary for one and the secondary for the other, and the tertiary for another if they add even more options. Let's make them spellcasters. So here you can see what type of spellcasting they get and what classes those are like. We're wizards. And uses which spell. Yeah, for simplicity. Oops. Come on. Wizrad. Wizard. There we go. Okay, so wizard. The unfortunate thing is that there are 3 different things here called wizard, so we're going to have to look at the IDs, which is this question mark over here. So that's CS wizard, which is class. I happen to know that this is for this is class secondary wizard, so that's the secondary class rules that were added in Pathfinder Unchained. So that's not the version of the wizard we want. See help wizard, that is the version we want. And this last one is archetype header wizard. That's the header that goes on the wizard archetypes. So that's not the one we want. So we want the middle one here. Okay, bonus spell attribute, intelligence. Max spell level attribute. Actually, as it says in the question mark here, note, if this is left blank, it will default to the same as the bonus spell attribute. And we want to use intelligence for both of them, so we will just leave it blank.
Question.
Yes?
If you have a class that you're building where it is, when you first start the class, it's selectable from what type of spellcaster you are, whether it's going to go off of, for instance, charisma or intelligence or wisdom. Is there a way to enable that so that it's as a class feature, it's selectable what type of spellcaster you are?
That is something you can do. What you would do is create an ability that offers the user the selection of what type of spellcasting it is, and then you would have a script that overwrites whatever is set up in the class.
So you just put a default in the class. And
Yeah, you probably want to still want to put a default in the class. And let's say arcane spells, just to get something. Spells cast per level. This is the same kind of array as you saw earlier, where row 0 is level 1. So I am just going to fill in a few numbers here. And lowest spell level is 0. Highest spell level is 9. Okay. And yep. And we do get unlimited 0-level spells like a wizard. Secondary spells would be things like a cleric's domain spells or a wizard spells from their school. I think I'll skip that. And then psionics, don't need that for now. Custom ability, okay, yeah. At this point, let's save the changes. Go back to the main window, and I'm going to use Control R which is quick reload. Also from the develop menu, you can find quick reload near the top of the develop menu. I happen to have learned the keyboard shortcut for it by now. Oh, that's the problem. Right. I put this content under a source and forgot to turn on the source. That's why I was having troubles. So you can see, okay, we've got spell book. And the spell memorization is working. And bonus feats are working. Okay. You can see it's starting to populate the various spells and saves and things like that. Okay, back to the class. Let's say this class will get two different kind of abilities that the user chooses from. Let's say at first level they're going to get one that kind of redefines the class, kind of like a Cavalier Order or a Sorcerer Bloodline kind of level thing. And also at every odd level they're going to get to pick one kind of power, Rogue Talent or Barbarian Rage Power level ability. So the way you do those abilities that offer the user a select, or where the user selects from various abilities to build their class, is by using the custom ability tables on the class. So there's custom abilities, and then there's secondary, and tertiary, quaternary, and quintenary, because there are classes that offer you selections of things, something from this category, and something from that category, and something from that category, and something from that category. It doesn't act, in terms of how Hero Lab handles things, it does not matter if you use all 5, it doesn't matter if you use number 1 before using the secondaries. What the user will see when creating their class is that the customary table will be above the secondary table, above the tertiary, and so on. So in general, the way you choose what powers to put in what table is, as the user is creating one of these classes, figure they're doing it level by level, creating it from first level. What do you want them to choose first? Put those abilities at the higher level tables, and put the abilities they'll get later on the lower tables, so that they come to them in order. So in that case, we want our ability that changes the whole class to be on the custom abilities. Let's call that, what do we call it? I'll just call that big ability. And plural is big. Big abilities. And custom ability count, you're going to get one of those at first level, and we leave all the other rows blank because you never get another one. And here's where you can control, like custom stat block location, you could control the way all barbarian rage powers appear on the special attacks list on the stat block. That's how you set that up. Then you don't have to keep checking. then you don't have to keep checking on every single rage power you make that it's an attack, that it shows up on the attack line of the special ability stat block. Hide custom abilities on the stat block. That would be for when this ability doesn't really matter. It's also used for like a sorcerer bloodline or a wizard school, where there's a special handling for that in the spells section. Okay, secondary ability counts. We'll call them, I can't think of a name off the top of my head, so I'll just call them secondary and secondaries. And we want to get one of those at every odd level. So actually, let's front load them a bit. Get 2 at first level, another one at second level, another one at third level, and then they slow down a bit. And you'd fill out the rest of the level.
So these would be things like rogue talents or something.
Correct.
Okay. And the secondary could possibly be the high level rogue talents or something.
What do you?
Well, there's certain rogue talents you can't pick until you're a certain level. Would you just have those the higher level rogue talents be the higher level ones, or just put prerequisites on them?
No, for rogue talents, you would normally just use a prerequisite to mark the ones that you can't start until 10th level.
Mm-hmm.
Although there's things like the alchemist discoveries, the grand discoveries. If you look at them, the grand discoveries that you to get at 20th level or so, those are actually a different. You can't pick those with your normal discovery slots, and you can't pick your normal discoveries with those. So they're actually a separate category. So yeah, it's actually the way to look at that is once you get access to those higher level abilities, could you still use that slot to pick all the lower level abilities? If so, you probably want them in one table. If not, you want them in more than one table. And we'll leave the other ability sets blank. Sorry about this, guys. The rest of the stats are a little bit obscure. Okay, let's give them a minion. So, reading the question mark on the familiars. If the class always has an arcane familiar, enter the level the class first gets it at. Leave it blank if they don't have an arcane familiar, or if like it was. So let's say they're like witches and they always get an arcane familiar, just for convenience. Oops, I guess that's not necessary. Okay. And now let's fill out those tables of abilities we added. So for classes, there are 2 different sets of abilities that go with classes. First, there's the class specials. That's for when the class always gets this ability at a particular level. And there is also the custom abilities. That's for when the class gets a selection of a couple different things, and this is where you'd set up each individual selection. So I'm going to create a new one, available to classes. The Gen Con attendee. And this is going to be one of my primaries, so in the not primary, I'm going to leave it blank. This is one of our big selections.
So each entry here is a separate selection possibility?
Yes. Not feeling very creative today. Okay. For the unique ID I'm going to give this ability, I'm going to leave a C at the beginning to mark that this is something related to a class. Then I'm going to put in GCE, the three-letter abbreviation of the class I'm working on.
You mean GCA?
You put GCE earlier.
Did I?
You did put GCE earlier.
Oops. Okay.
That's okay.
I'll be consistent, but yeah.
Does it matter if you don't? I mean, is it?
No,
Not
this
a
is
database that's reading
this
that.
is a convenience so that if in 6 months when you look at this, you can say, okay, according to that ID, this is something for this class. Now I remember what I was doing then. Hmm? Okay, so give it a unique ID. You would fill in the description text. I said it available to classes, and like I said, I want it to be a primary ability because this is one of the big choices. And then at the very bottom, I'm going to give it a source. And then control, oops. Yep. Save that. And now let's create some of the minor abilities they get. And again, the minor abilities, remember, we put on the secondary abilities table. So here, where it says not primary, we want to choose secondary. And let's make a copy of that one. And make another copy. And let's make this one repeatable. So, uniqueness. If you're not familiar with uniqueness, there are 3 options in Hero Lab. There is unique, which means only one copy of this thing may ever exist on a particular character. There is not unique, which means Hero Lab doesn't care how many the user adds. And there is add once. That means the user may only add 1 copy of it, but Hero Lab may add as many copies as it likes. That's helpful in cases like when you are granting something that a user could take another way. For example, a ranger who gets the endurance feat at 3rd level, the user is still allowed to take endurance on their own as a feat, but you're going to grant it at 3rd level. So if you chose unique on the endurance feat, that would mean that as soon as you added any levels of ranger, that bonus feat that's going to come in at 3rd level is on your character, sitting there waiting to be activated once you get to the right level. That would mean the user, if the user is just going to splash 1 level of ranger on this character, they can never take the endurance feat on their own. So that's why feats use add once, the option. That way Hero Lab can add them as bonus things without interfering with the user's ability to add 1 on their own. If you're not sure whether to use unique or add once, you can just default to add once. Or just default to whatever the tab says is the default if it's unique or add once. In this case, things created on this tab default to unique. because actually I don't think anything you generally don't get custom abilities that are granted as bonus options, except by a couple archetypes. So, right, I want to make this one ability not unique so that the user can take as many copies of it as they like. And then I'm going to go back and reload here. And how am I doing? 45 minutes in. Okay.
Well, it's compiling. How easy is it if you do make a mistake to see what your error is to find it quickly?
Depends entirely on the error. I have spent 30 I have just and I have spent a day on things. Familiarity also helps, of course. If you recognize what the error messages are, pretty obtuse, I'm sorry to say, but I've started to get used to what they actually mean.
So as you see them before, you're easy to figure out what it is in the future the next time.
Yeah. Yeah. So under big abilities, you can see got some options under secondaries. Choose this. Okay, so now there's not much to those, is there? First thing you can do is add summary. Yeah.
Sorry, is there a way you can make so this class is counted as another class for purpose of prerequisites? For instance, there's certain types of things only wizards can, certain types of feats only wizards can take.
Yep. Let me remember where those settings are. It's a little bit hidden, if I remember correctly.
Counts as classes.
Counts as classes for feats. That would be like counts as a fighter for the purpose of taking fighter feats or take wizard feats.
And the secondary counts as classes, just
this is
purpose
counts
of
as
multi-classing, okay.
actually that's left over from second edition, where once you changed out of monk, you normally couldn't go back.
Mm-hmm.
Or third edition rather.
Related to that,
Uh-huh.
is there an option to have the counts as for the purposes of spellcasting levels? So for instance, if you are a wizard, but you have another, if you're multi-class, you have a wizard as your primary class, and then you have this custom class that also adds wizard levels, so that you want the levels of it to count as wizard levels for the purposes of your spellcasting.
There isn't an automatic.
There's prestige classes.
Yeah. Do you mean the way a prestige class
Yes.
says add extra magic
Yes.
levels?
Yeah.
Let me show.
Exactly.
Yep. Extra magic or power levels.
That's it. Thank you.
So, yeah. So, your average class is going to put in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or like Eldritch Knight that skips level 1 would start at row 1, second level, and put in 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Actually, let's create a class special for this. I can't think of names for these things.
Is the unique ID case sensitive?
It is.
Okay.
Thank you. And you'll notice that class specials are forced to uniqueness of no. There's some internal things that make that important. Okay. Class specials, because they aren't selected by the user directly, generally don't get sources. Only the things that are directly, if it's something the user can select, definitely give it a source. If it only comes along with other things, generally don't. That way, it's easy. That way, when your next book borrows the ability from the class in that book, it makes it easier to just borrow the ability without having to add a new source to it. Okay. Now let's make this ability do something. Let's say that you get, at first level, you get +1 to all knowledge skills, and at every 3 levels after level 1, so level 4, 7, 10, 13, the bonus increases by +1. Okay. First, actually, not sure if everyone's familiar with phases, so I will go over phases and priorities, so I'll go over that again. Every script running in Hero Lab is run in order. No scripts are ever run at the same time, so Hero Lab builds up a list of all the scripts it needs to run for that character, then runs them in order. The way it determines what that order is by using these phases. So first it runs all the scripts in testing global tags, then first users, then pre-level. Pardon me. And then within each phase, it will go from in priorities from starting at 0 up to infinity. In general, users will not put anything in the testing global tags phase. And anytime you see parentheses users in one of the phases, that was an experiment we tried back at the beginning of the D20 files. The idea being that all of the content we created would use the normal phases and the users would use the user phases for their custom content. Didn't turn out to work in practice, so.
Question about priority, really quick.
Uh-huh.
Does it actually go to infinity, or is it an integer value?
I don't actually know. I know I have put in like 9 9s in a row, and it accepts that.
Okay, so that's bigger than 16. It's bigger than 16. And what if you have two of the exact same priority? Does it just pick non-deterministic which one's first, or?
Yep.
You don't know.
And yes, it will. Their Hero Lab will pick which script comes first to run first. What can be really dangerous for your testing is that on a specific character, it tends to be consistent about which one will run first, but that can change when somebody else creates a character using the content you've created. So it's safest not to rely on a random order that happened to be the order you want. Oh, right. First phase is for setting up some of the basics of the character, like how many levels does this character have, what size are they, what race are they, the basic stuff. The levels phase here is for all the basic calculations of a level. So you are level 5 in this class, therefore the BAB this class is giving you is +4, therefore the save it's giving you is whatever. All that's happening in the levels phase. So the pre-levels phase is when you go in and set up all the stuff that those level things depend upon. Pre-levels is also a good default for when you just need to make a change. Your change does not depend on the state of anything else. You're just adding a fixed number. Pre-levels is a good default. Get it done and out of the way early in the sequence. You know it's there for later things. And post-levels is all those numbers from the classes have been calculated. Now you can start to use them. So for example, if you get if your ability gets your level in uses per day, starting in the pre-level phase and later, you can start calculating that. You can look up the level of the class and calculate the number of uses the ability gets. Then the next major thing is the attributes phase. That's when it says, okay, the user entered a 10 in this score, and the user entered a 10 in their strength, and they assigned their human bonus of +2 to their strength, so that's a total of 12. So therefore their strength is 12, and their strength bonus is +1. All that's in the attributes phases. So pre-attributes is when you add bonuses to attributes, like a belt of giant strength, so that the bonus is applied before the attributes are calculated. Post-attributes is when you can look up those values and get things like this ability is usable 3 plus charisma modifier times per day. The final phase is basically all the basics have been calculated for this character. Now let's do the final assembly. So this is where this is the phase when armor class is calculated, when attack bonus is calculated, and then later on in the final phase, the attack and damage of individual weapons is calculated. Did you have a question? Just stretching. Okay, the validation phase. If you're running a script in the validation phase, that script should generally not try to make any changes. The validation phase is just for testing what is already out there. And then the render phase is the very last one. In general, in the render phase, all you want to do is change the way things look. Don't try to change anything external to this ability. This would be for like if you want to change the name of your ability depending on the bonuses that you've calculated for it, depending on the level. The render phase is a good time for that because you know absolutely everything else has completed by the time you get to the render phase. Okay, when working with classes, there are two good defaults. The first is post levels, and the second is post attributes. Post levels is for most class scripts. Post attributes is when you say, oh, this is a thing on a class, but I also need to look up an attribute value. And if I don't have any other idea on what to put in the priority, I generally pick 10,000. Lots of space before it, lots of space after it. Okay. When you're writing scripts for class specials, you always want to start with a test. So with that said, the helper.showSpec tag is added to a copy of an ability once it has reached the correct level, and if it's not replaced by an archetype. That's Hero Lab telling itself internally, okay, it's good. This ability is good to go, ready to show on the special tab or on the special list. Yeah.
What language are scripts in? Are they in Hero Lab's special-ish language?
Yeah, it's a custom scripting language that has its roots in Visual Basic.
Is there documentation for that?
There's two options. Help on using the editor. Oh come on, quit complaining. Huh?
That's the one I found.
Yeah, this has our tutorials and our how-tos on using the editor. And the authoring kit wiki, I'm not online, so I can't go to that. That has a much more detailed analysis of what goes into it than I would expect a new user to be able to figure out, unfortunately. My real recommendation for figuring out how to do these scripts is to start thinking of what do I know of that's somewhere in Pathfinder that does something like this. Go look up their script, study how it worked.
Can you walk your scripts down so that one else can look at your stuff? Or once you've published it, is it always viewable?
Let's see, is the setting, there is a setting I can access that does that, but there is not but that is not revealed to you.
But
to
is that
the users.
setting for read only, or is that setting for not even read?
Yeah, we can hide certain things,
Okay.
but we generally do not hide things.
Everything I've purchased in my content, I can go view what you have done to set up and use that logic to figure out what I want to accomplish.
Yes.
So there's one item I would love to fix in Pathfinder Society and on the Azamar to not give me my warning if my character played a journal before the data got banned. Because I've had GMs get on my case because if it invalid, it gets the red message.
Right.
I just want to see if I can go in there and modify that and fix that.
Yeah. Personally, my view on that is the GM should see the warning, say,
And
"Oh,
verify the
you're
journal."
not allowed to do that." They should show the journal. Oh, here you have, or because technically you're breaking the rules, but here is something that says
Grandfather.
you have permission to break that rule. So, in my opinion, Hero Lab should show you that. But yes, the new copy button that you'll find on every tab will allow you to make a copy of something and save a new version of it, and make the changes you want to it.
Sweet.
Sometimes when you make a copy, something will be grayed out, and it'll say, "Warning: this item is defined as part of a supplement." You can still make a copy of that. But it will not let you save that item. But you can still copy it, look at all the settings, or just create a new blank item and switch back and forth, copy all the details.
Good wrap up, yeah, thank you. That's cool.
If you have, I find that more, oops. Oh well, I just started making it. If one thing I find convenient, if you have to do that, is open 2 different copies of Hero Lab, open in the editor in each, and then you can put your thing to be copied on one, and then the blank one on the other, tab between them. That makes it a lot faster. Okay, so as I said earlier, the helper.showSpec tag is added to class abilities once they're ready to be shown. So you can use that as a test for whether the ability should be applying its effects or not. So on class specials, it's good to have just a done if that tag equals 0, so is not present. So we want this ability to have a bonus of +1 at first level and then +1 more at every 3 levels after that. There are 2 ways to do that. I'm going to show you. First, I'm going to one way to do it is to have a separate copy of the ability that shows up at each of those individual levels You've probably seen that on several classes, like a bravery on a fighter. When you look at the list of abilities on the classes, you see it mentioned lots of times. Sometimes you'll just calculate you'll just have the ability appear once and calculate the bonus for every time, for every level. So let me start by showing you the system where you put in a copy every couple of levels, or every time the ability increases. Okay, what happens in that case is that there's a field named xCount.value. That field stores a value equal to the number of copies that have reached the correct level. So if this ability is going to be at 1, 4, 7, 10, and so if we're a 5th level character, xCount will equal 2. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use a field called AB value. There's AB value 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. They are just generic stores a value fields for users to use in whatever they need them for. So I'm just going to use AB value here to store the effective value of our ability. Right, some of you may not have seen the plus equals. So normally you'd just say AB value equals X count. But it's actually better to say AB value equals AB value equals the value of AB value that's already there plus X count. That way you can write a feat that says this ability counts as one step better. And the feat can just modify the AB value field of this ability, come in before this script runs. And as a convenience, rather than type out that whole thing, you can do, say, plus equals. That says take whatever's there, set it equal to itself plus whatever's on the other side of the equation. There is, of course, minus equals, times equals, and divided by equals in the scripting language. And yes, we want to apply the effects of this. All knowledge skills get a plus that bonus. So there's a construct called for each, which is a for loop that loops through all of the abilities in a certain category that you define. So we're starting with all of the things on the hero from base skill. So then we'll narrow it down to just the skills, and actually close this, save this, file save. Let's go to skills and add some knowledge skills. Now, since I turned on enable data file debugging, I can right click on these things and do show debug tags. Tags are pieces of information about a thing, and sometimes they're used as an informational thing. Sometimes they're used to trigger various behaviors. So, for example, let's see, helper.class skill. That's recording the fact that this is a class skill for us. helper.train only. That's recording that if you don't have any ranks in this skill, you can't use it. So what we are looking for here is something that identifies knowledge skills that's distinct to just knowledge skills.
Helper.knowledge skill.
Huh?
Helper.knowledge skill.
Yep. Helper.sk cat no. And to confirm that, here is another knowledge skill with helper.sk cat no. Here is linguistics, and it does not have that tag. So what I'm saying is each pick, meaning each skill we find, the bonus field on that pick gets the value we've stored on this ability. And then I'm going to close this for each with the next each. Okay, now other things about this ability. If you want, you can fill in this action, duration, range stuff. That's not useful yet, but eventually when we get real modification, or when we start tracking action economy on the tactical console, the action required to activate something will become important. So, best to set this stuff up, but I won't take the time to do that during the seminar. That AB value I said earlier, sometimes it's helpful to just store various values in here. Here's, you can just edit them directly without having to write a script saying AB value equals 2 if you just have a fixed value. That's really handy when the ability says +2 to something. If you store that +2 as an AB value of 2, then you can write a feat that says this ability instead adds +4, and your feat can just add to AB value. Okay, next let's do some automatic generation of the name. Our ability adds +1. Let's say outside the parentheses, we will add AB value.values number, and we will sign it. This is for inside the parentheses, but I don't think we'll do that. We'll just this ability +1, +2, +3. Stat block line, this is a skill modifier. And then automatic stat block name generation. Going to repeat the same steps here as on the name, because we want it to look the same on the stat block as in the program. And actually, this is not something we really need to show on the special tab because its bonus will already have been applied, so the user won't need to look it up during play, or won't need to look up the description text of this ability during play. Let's see. This one's not going to have uses per day, but this charge information is where you would put uses per day or uses per round or whatever. So turn on track resources. There's lots of automatic calculations you can choose from, or you can write a script if what you see or what you need doesn't list on here. So like 3+ attribute mod is a common one, or level times 1. And then usage period, you can choose uses per round, uses per uses per rage, uses per day, that sort of thing. I think for the next ability I will show you activation, so I'll skip that for now. I'll also show you item selection on the next ability. Okay, so that's everything I need here. I'll save. Normally at this point I would I would do a test now on this ability and then add it to the class. So I will fix the ID. But in this case I'm going to cheat. I'm just going to cut Control C on the ID of this ability, then go over to the class tab and go to bootstraps and paste in that ID. Actually, no, first time around I should show you the right way of doing it. Okay, right, I tested that one. Now go to the class. All right, so right, I've got that ability created. Then I go to, on the class, to the class special abilities button. Click to add a new bootstrap. I think I called this one just ability. Yeah, there it is. Select that one. Okay, and we're gonna gain it at level 1. Then I'm gonna copy it. 4, 7, 10, 13, 16, 19. 6 more copies. Let me bump the class up to level 5 so that it's easier to see. So you can see here's the special list for the class, and you can see, okay, we got our ability at level 1, level 4, 7, correct? And then over on the, oh right, we hit it on the special tab, that's why. And then if I click on one of the question marks for this, it says ability +1.
Why is that level 1 saying ability +2 and level 1 saying ability +1?
That is weird. So I am going to go here. I'm going to undo or I'm going to show it on the special tab so I can see it in practice. Okay, yeah, there it's showing ability +2 like we wanted it to. Okay. So now. Now let's create another class special. Let's say this one we're going to get at level 2, and it's going to have a bonus of plus 1 per 2 levels. And it's going to add to a chosen skill, and it's only usable 3 rounds or usable for a minute, 3 times per day. Okay. So tracked resources, we do want tracked resources. We can use the automatic calculation. Let's say it's used 3 plus an attribute mod times per day. And charge calculates use intelligence. 3 plus int mod per day. Usage period is per day. And we do want it to reset with a night's rest, so we won't check that one. We want it to be activatable. If you leave the activation name blank, it will set it to the ability's name. But for things like, or you can give it a name that more explains what you're activating it to do. You can also choose amount of activation, which is for an ability where you have a flexible amount of how much power you're putting in this ability, or how strongly it's happened, or how many times whatever has triggered. And then item selection is for when the ability, let's have the select from option here is a lot of preset things. So I think I'm gonna do select from all skills. And then restrict the list to all picks on hero. So all the skills that are on the hero. On YouTube, if you want to know more about the custom expressions, writing your own selection list, check my YouTube, the YouTube of my seminar from last Gen Con, where my topic was about how to write those. But I don't want to take the time to go into all the details of that right now, I'm sorry to say.
Is that on the general Lone Wolf?
Yeah, we should look for on YouTube. Look for the Lone Wolf Development YouTube channel.
Okay.
Should be in there. And again, I'm going to start with the same test because you're not going to get this ability until 2nd level. We don't want to apply its effects until to a 1st level character or to someone who took an archetype and replaced this ability. Okay, in this case I am looking up a field called X all lev. That means the all levels field. So what can happen with class specials is you can have more than one class that gives you the same ability. For example, a druid ranger would get wild empathy from both of their classes. There's actually two different level fields. The other is called X total lev, the total level. So on a character with only one class that gives you that ability, X all lev and X total lev will have the same value. On a character that got a copy of the ability from two different classes, on each class, X total lev will only reflect that class, but X all lev will reflect the total of all the classes that gave you that ability. So on a class special, you want to unless you know you're going to want to use it another way, generally use X all lev when you're looking up the level of a class special. Oh, and the X all lev field also already handles things like a monk's robe improving that ability for you. So that value has already been calculated for you and added to the X all lev. And we want to make it that value over 2. Then we're going to round it to 0 decimal places in the -1, so down direction. And then the next step is to get the thing that was chosen. So first I am going to add a test. Okay, so field user chosen 1 stores a link to whatever was selected in the drop-down menu. We've set the drop-down menu up to choose from all skills, remember. And the is chosen target says, has something been selected there yet? So if the is chosen equals 0, we want to be done. We'll end the script at that point. Because without a skill chosen, what effect can we add? Then so field user chosen 1 dot chosen, the thing that was chosen, dot field bonus dot value plus equals. Did I hit home or something?
You the touchpad on the mouse.
Plus the value we've stored in this ability. And here for the name of the ability, let's put the bonus bonus value inside the parentheses. Oh. And I just realized I made a major mistake on the other ability. So first of all, I didn't test it. So that's a big problem. So if you look up here, I'm getting an untyped bonus of +3. Remember how this is a 5th level character, so you should be getting a +2 from that ability we created? I realized why.
It's because you're cumulatively adding it each time it gets put on it.
Bingo.
I was wondering about that.
I totally skipped that step. So I'm going to go back to that say something here. Okay, go back to that other ability, and I'm going to put another stop test in here. the helper.firstCopy tag, HeroLab will look at all the different, when you have an ability that has lots of different copies, HeroLab will look at all of them, pick one of them, and declare that one to be the first copy. If it comes in at lots of different levels, it will always pick one that's active, not one that hasn't reached the right level yet. But it will not know. But which one of those it picks is actually random, or not something you can predict on a regular basis. So, by putting that test in, only one copy that HeroLab has pre-selected will get to add its bonus. And that other ability, this I'm going to do quickly. So copy the ID, go over to the Bootstraps button here, paste the ID, and then in the class special abilities list, it's thing not found, but still gained it at level 2. And you'll notice that everything that's a bootstrap selection now has a ×1 more, because HeroLab has no idea where that thing belongs. So I will just ignore that for now. Reload. On custom abilities, remember how I said X all level is the default to use on class specials? On custom abilities, they only have X total lev. They do not have X all lev, because you generally will not. Because on there, you generally don't get copies from multiple classes and multiple versions of the same thing. So there, just use X total lev if you need the level of the class that thing is attached to. So first of all, I see that bug is fixed. Now we're only getting a +2 to those skills. And go over here. The special abilities tab is turned red. Something to do there. And yep, it wants us to make a selection. Let's go for climb. And yep, climb +2 untyped bonus. Other ability to climb 3 per day. Because HeroLab will fit or will assemble all that live name text for you, or at least Pathfinder will.
We look at skills page now. That climb is not this climb that would have been here.
Yeah.
Does it show us show us 2 different climbs then? One for the +2 3 times per day, and the non+2 the rest of the time? So does that bonus only apply 3 times per day?
That's a big bug too. The ability, we added an activation to the ability, but we didn't add a test for whether the activation was turned on or not.
Oh, okay, so I'm with you. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm there.
So, sorry, I'm feeling really scatterbrained today. Okay.
It's hard to teach ad hoc like this.
Yeah. So,
Done.
if. And actually, let me show you how you can look up this field on your own. So I'm going to go over to the in-play tab to this ability, right-click it, show the fields on this ability. And unfortunately, this screen isn't tall enough to show the whole set of fields.
You have a very nice screen if it was.
I happen to know. I will give you a hint. I know it starts with the AB prefix. So I will. So now, as I activate this ability, you're going to watch for something that changes, and watch for what that change is. So, or don't know if you guys can read the screen.
I can't.
Yeah, it's ABI active.
Yep, a bill active is the field here. Come on, stop asking me that, dumb computer.
Color scheme for performance.
Maybe it doesn't like the monitor up there. Okay,
Maybe easy to view it, but
and you notice that the value of the field is 1 if the box is checked, 0 if it is not. We're done if that field's value equals 0. Not touching. Sorry, computer, not touching. Okay, yeah. Now climb plus 0. Turn it on. Climb plus 2. There we go. Okay.
did it track the fact you turn it on and off?
Huh?
Did it track the fact you did it once already? 3 times per day?
See, look right there in the
Oh,
feeds.
yeah, that you'd use in the track
Oh, by hand,
resource.
okay.
Yep, unfortunately.
They're not tied together.
No. Unfortunately, in my experience, it's so easy to forget to turn on something or off something that they quickly get out of sync unless we offer the option to manually override the numbers. Okay, so that covers some of the basics of how to create the class, how to create the custom abilities. Oh, right, the custom abilities. When you are writing their scripts, the default phase and priority is going to stay the same, but your initial test is going to be different. I really wish we had not I really wish we had a uniform thing, but we don't. For our legacy, we just kind of threw everything together, I'm afraid. So in this case, there's a tag called helper.spec_disable, special ability disable. If that tag is present, we don't want to apply any of our effects. Actually, you could use this helper.spec_disable test on a class special, but it's redundant because if spec disable were present, helper.showSpec would not be added. It would test for it and then not add that. And in this case, you're looking for the presence of that tag in order to shut it down. So that uses the not equals to sign.
Is that for something like archetypes, where an archetype will disable that ability?
Yeah. Also good for rage powers, where they have to be turned off until you're raging. Although actually, the helper.spec disable test tag, if it's there, turns the thing gray. So actually, better example would be if something turned it into a zombie, it loses all abilities on the character. But the way we have Hero Lab programmed with is this disabled tests everywhere, or hopefully everywhere. If you add the zombie thing, you don't need to manually delete everything else about the character in order to get it working right.
Or a paladin who's done an evil act.
Yeah.
Losing the paladin's abilities.
Yeah, actually, that would be an example of it. The Paladin Mercies would be shut. The Paladin Mercies use this lost if X member checkbox. So Hero Lab checks the class and says, and then it adds helper.spec disable if that has done it. But Hero Lab does that test for you and then adds the tag you're already testing for. Okay. Yeah, I think next thing I should show you is how to make an archetype of that class. Probably something you're going to do once you start adding your new content. Let's make the GM archetype. Class to modify is Gen Con attendee.
Intelligence plus 500.
And then down in sources, select the same source.
Need to make it immune.
Okay, so let's say that this one doesn't get the choice of a particular skill at second level. So we're going to go into removed class special abilities, and we're going to find that thing and select it here. Bingo. And I'm not going to write out a new one, but let's say it modifies the other one. Yeah, so by selecting modified, that means another archetype that would replace it can't stack with this archetype. I'm not actually used to seeing archetypes that change the skill. Well, actually, no, there are a few archetypes that change the skill points per level, but. Huh?
I don't know of any.
I think there's like Cloistered Cleric that gets more skill points per level. Or,
Martial Fighter.
huh?
Martial Fighter.
Yeah, that one too. Or it's not called that, is it? It's
Or War Warden.
something from one of the Pathfinder Society book, like about the book about the Pathfinder Society. Yeah, Lore Warden. That was it. Okay. And you can also do things like override the attack bonus, add additional class skills, remove some of the class skills, languages and all that jazz. You can use this to modify the weapons and armor it gets. They're trained in medium armor too.
Add diplomacy as a skill. Class trait, yeah.
Actually, I think more appropriate for intimidating on the GM.
Well, check.
That too. Yeah, let's add bluff and intimidate too. Okay. Let's say that their custom abilities, which is the selection of the big ability that changes the way the class works, kind of thing. Let's say they don't get them at all. They effectively, the archetype becomes their type of character. So we're going to use remove custom abilities. And the
But that doesn't remove the secondary, it only removes the first one.
Correct.
Okay.
For the second abilities, let's say we're going to modify the count. So go back to the class to refresh our memory on what the count is. 2, 3, 4, skip 5, skip 6, skip 7. Okay. So let's say they get one less choice at every level, or they get one less choice at first level, but that's the only thing they lose. Or they replace one of the first level choices. So that means we're going to need a -1 in the first level, and a -1 in everything else that gets affected. That way, if you were to look at the total at the end, the totals will always be one less than the normal version of this class. Also for archetypes, if you don't want to have to remember exactly which levels, it is fine to put in -1s everywhere.
Okay.
When it'll actually go through the normal class thing, build up the okay, this line is blank, so scoot up a little bit. What was the last value? That's the last value. It will apply that, then it will apply the archetype stuff. Or actually, no, it will apply it will work either way. Oh, and modify class name. All of Paizo's archetypes use append in parentheses. The other options are left over from the variant class rules from 3rd edition. So if you wanted, you could say, like if your archetype was blood kineticist, you might do a replace if you're modifying the kineticist class, so that it's the blood kineticist instead of kineticist parentheses blood kineticist. Although the real problem there becomes when you also add another thing that says
Another archetype.
Yeah. Then how do you name the thing? So append in parentheses is what I use for all archetypes, or what all official content in Hero Lab uses for archetypes. Got about 10 minutes before they kick us out. Does anyone have any other questions or anything else you'd like me to go over before we have to leave? Let's see. Just finish compiling, and then I'll show you the archetype changes. You would normally also create a new archetype that's a header to go in here, because right now it's sorting as Gen Con sorts before Gunslinger and after Fighter, so it's putting it there. Yep, special ability. Only getting one secondary at first level, then okay, other ability replaced. Actually, if no one has any more questions, I will show you something you'll probably encounter on some archetype or another, but is a little obscure. How do you replace the 4th level copy of an ability without affecting any of the other copies of that ability, but not the whole ability. Personally, I never remember that one off the top of my head myself. So, where's a good? I know some of the fighter archetypes in the APG have it. Some of the monk archetypes in the APG have it, but I can't remember one off the top of my head. Drat. Mystic. Okay, I guess I will show you. Actually, no. There's others. I guess I will show you how to move things around. So on the key mystic, here's an example of how to. What this is doing is find the base class special whose ID is key defense and comes from the monk class and is at level 4. And then tag replace means delete level 4, assign level 3. And then key pool, they do the same thing too.
So this makes it so they get it a level earlier then.
Yeah. This class gets key pools at a level earlier. And delete this one. All right. I think I will let the next group start setting up because I can't think of anything else I can show you in just 5 minutes. So thank you all very much for coming. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And my coworker Aaron, sometime tomorrow, it's on that list, I don't remember the exact time, has a seminar on more basic Hero Lab, creating Hero Lab content in Hero Lab.
Is tomorrow's the basic one?
Yeah, tomorrow's the basic one. So if you survive this.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks for watching our Gen Con 2015 seminar, Hero Lab, Advanced Tips and Tricks for Adding Your Own Content. Be sure to explore the other videos on our channel, and make sure to check out Hero Lab on our website, www.getherolab.com.